Hey guys, Ben Paints here, and today we're back once again for another video at Teamsport Bristol, and today we're taking on a GP1 event. Now, the format for this one, for all of you that are interested, there was a 10-minute practice followed by a 3-stage F1 style qualifying where a third of the grid got knocked out under every session, and as you can see, we have actually managed to position ourselves on pole position, which is something I've never done at Teamsport Bristol, so I was really excited to get involved and put in the best performance that I could for you guys. Now, before we get into the rest of the video, I would like to say, if you are watching this and you haven't subscribed already, could you please hit the subscribe button down below, as it really does help me out. And if you enjoy this video, could you drop a like on it as well, as it really does mean the world to me. And I'd like to say thank you once again to everyone that has watched the last few videos. They've really been blowing up, and it's really meant the world to me. So here you can see we're trying to back the pack up here on the formation lap, make sure that we don't have to go round on 2 occasions. Now, the way that this was set out, there were 2 heats, and then the total points accrued, sort of added up to where you would finish. So 2 20-minute races, and we're going to jump in to the first one as we get across the start-finish line here. So right behind me in second place was Sam Gaskell, and I knew that he had a lot of pace. You can see immediately him bumping me through the corners, trying to push me forward so we could sort of break away from the rest of the pack. Now, you're not going to see too much of the first heat, and you'll see why in a couple of seconds. Now, I understood pretty quickly that the rear end of my car really had absolutely no grip whatsoever. I found it really to be a struggle, and I knew that Sam behind me had one of the best karts on the grid for the evening, so I knew pretty quickly what was going to happen. So I was just trying to break ahead with him as much as we could, try to avoid all of the carnage coming in from behind us. You can see me looking over my shoulder and sort of realising my fate already. We come across the line on the first lap, a 40.671, not the quickest first lap, but we're trying to just sort of break away and be as quick as possible. You can see how much bumping I'm getting from Sam, and here I sort of move to the left, go to turn into the corner, and Sam goes straight down the inside. He starts bobbing away, so I knew he was off and on his travels. Now, you're going to see pretty quickly how much time he actually manages to sort of gap me in this short space of time over a lap. Now, there's always the argument that there's not that much of a difference in karts, but you're going to see pretty quickly I'm not too far off the pace of Sam, but immediately round a couple of corners he's already pulled out 3 or 4 kart lengths on me, which I was a bit disappointed in, as I knew at this point we weren't really going to have that much of a battle. So here we are then, just trying to tuck in behind him, and we are just going to skip forward immediately to the very last lap of the race. As we were going round, that was all that really happened. Sam sort of broke away and ended up 20 seconds ahead of me, and the people fighting behind me sort of didn't have the pace to keep up either. So we just drove around for about 20 to 25 laps, and there's not really much to show you. So I thought we'd jump through this first heat pretty quickly, because the second heat really was a lot more fun. So you can see the checker flag on the left hand side there, so I knew this was the last lap, and I was coming around here on this lap and just coming around the last corner here, trying to stay as tight as possible, but really I wasn't really racing for too much position at this point. Obviously it's solidly in second place and really far behind Sam. Just caught him on the left there going into the big hairpin at the bottom of the ramp, so taking a move down the inside there just for a good measure. But that was pretty much the first heat done. So jumping straight into the second heat, the one thing I didn't say about this event is wherever you qualified on the grid, you would then start in the reverse for the second heat. So as we qualified in first place, this meant that we started in last place for the second heat, which I thought to myself, there's going to be a bit of fun. I didn't know if I had quite had the pace to sort of get past everyone, but we're going to see how we get on here. Obviously we're going around on our warm-up lap here. We're starting, there's 18 people on track, so we are starting down quite deep into the field, and this was really going to be a good test of my ability. So right behind Sam here, and Jason up ahead, he qualified in third place. So here we are then, just getting ready as the lights are about to go green. Sam's looking up the inside already. I knew what he was going to do, and I was just willing to follow him through. Look, Jason very kindly for once actually lets us through, which I didn't expect him to do that. So we come across the line already, up into 17th. We've gained a position already through Jason being very kind. A lot of people just loading into the first couple of corners here, and you can see already instant carnage as there is a kart facing the inside barrier. So we're up into 16th now, and you can see the absolute carnage is going on ahead. A lot of bumping and bashing, and we can see Sam cheating here, obviously behind under yellows, and he just sneaks ahead of Oliver Payne there. Oliver shaking his head. He wasn't too happy about that. I thought that was a bit of a dirty move, Sam. I know you're watching this. So he snuck up into 14th, and as lights go green, I go for a little bit of a lunge on Oliver. Obviously, Oliver, unfortunately, the casualty from the last video at Hereford, so I did feel quite bad going for another move on him there, but just trying to tag along behind him here and sort of work together with him. I know he's quite quick down at Bristol, so I thought if we could put in some decent lap times together, then we could really just sort of catch up to the other guys that are up ahead. So following along behind him here, we're just down in 16th place. You see a lot of tussling going on, and this is only going to back the pack up into each other and just calls for a lot better race. You can see he signals to me there, let's work together. I was happy to oblige to that and not really send him, but as you can see, the plan doesn't really work here as he gets held up into the next couple of corners, and this causes me just to really go into the back of him there, getting loaded through, and he actually lets me pass up into 15th. He wanted to follow along behind me, and we could try and make some more positions up, so I was very appreciative of that. We're up into 15th place, and now we're just trying to catch up to the other guys that are sort of racing each other here. So through the Mickey Mouse section, really able to catch up with some of the others. A little bit of bumping, obviously a lot of people hitting the brakes at different times. It just throw everyone off, and again you can see the absolute carnage through this bottom hairpin. I thought I had a little bit of a run on Sam, but he closes the door off pretty well, and this is where he sort of puts himself in a very compromised position. He goes to the inside here, and this is actually where I'm able to gain 3 positions around the outside. Absolute bedlam there on the inside. No, actually I was to go from 15th to 12th in 2 corners, which I was really happy with, able to actually get past Sam, who was obviously the points leader in this race. So at this point I now realised that if I could get a good position here, I would actually finish in a very solid position for the end of the night. Obviously coming down to Bristol for just over a year now, I've never actually finished in first place for any elite event, so if I could manage to pull it off, I knew I would be really happy with myself. Now you can see Alfie here up against Arthur. He goes for a really weird move here, sort of spins off route. Arthur wasn't too happy with that. I try and look around the outside of Alfie, but back out, didn't want to cause any more carnage, so just trying to bide my time here and wait for a better opportunity to overtake. So I can see that the guys ahead were sort of all battling, sort of packing themselves into each other, and here you can see just trying to be as smooth as possible and just try and maintain my momentum rather than being held up too much. So we come across the line on that lap with a 40.842, which isn't very quick, and you can see why, as I'm pretty much coasting through this whole section just to make sure I don't start bumping into the back of people. Now here is where I probably pull off one of the more diabolical moves of the night. This wasn't my best move, but I didn't get a penalty for it, so I was happy to gain the position. So just up the inside here of Arthur, just sort of get bumped through, and that's another double overtake going into the fast right-hander. I thought I probably would get a penalty for that one, but luckily enough I didn't. So I was up into 10th now on merit. I was really happy with this. I've gained 8 positions so far. Sorry, I've gone from 18th to 10th, and now I'm just trying to work on some of the other drivers that are up ahead. Obviously a lot of people that were here on this night were come over from Cardiff, and there was also guys that had come down from Reading as well, so a lot of new faces to the track, people that didn't quite know the track as well as me. So using my knowledge of good overtaking spots, able to slide up the inside of Thomas Wiltshire there up into 9th place, and now I was looking for another move up into 8th, but the driver ahead just really closes off the gap. I thought I had the run here on the driver in the purple suit, but unfortunately I saw I get pushed to the outside, so I back off rather than just going head to head with him and sort of ending up in the barrier. So I stayed down in 9th place, gained another position on this lap, which I was really happy with. Now I was just looking to try and gain any more positions if I can. I got a really good run going onto the start finish straight here and actually make the position going over the start finish line, which is a very unorthodox place to make a move in it. You really do have to be brave. You don't want to be put into the wall. There's a lot of trust in the other driver to make sure they don't sort of push you into that side wall. So here again, getting a little bit hit through the bottom hairpin there, shaking my head, did make me lose the momentum there. I thought I'd have the momentum on the driver up ahead as they exited the hairpin at the bottom of the ramp, but unfortunately it did mean I was still down in 8th for this lap, so a little bit of momentum lost there, but we're able to gain it back through the rest of the lap. You can see taking nice tight lines here, it's really minimising the track length and it's allowing me to close up to the guy ahead. But you can see unfortunately yellow flags here. I think there was a minor incident because they went out straight away, so we're straight back on the pace as soon as we get round and the green light show. So you can see the green lights have come back on, and now we're just trying to make up any positions that we can. You can see the driver there to opt in for an early apex and actually compromise his run on the way out, so he does actually understand that I've got a better run, so he's just let me pass there up into 7th place now. So we've come from 18th to 7th so far. We've really got our eyes set on a really solid finishing position. I was really happy so far as we're only a couple of minutes into the race and we're already motored over halfway up through the grid, which I didn't really expect to happen, but I was really happy. I had a pretty solid kart. It wasn't the best one, but it was one that was allowing me to make the moves done that I wanted to really get done. So again, you can see how much time I've gained through the Mickey Mouse there by taking tighter lines to the driver ahead. And again, they just opt for an early apex. Unfortunately, that just compromised their run coming up the ramp, so I'm able to have overspeed coming into the fast right-hander here, and I was able to gain another position up into 6th place. Obviously, you can see on the left-hand side there, the driver's in the lead, so we've come all the way from the back. We're fighting through the field. You can see other drivers up ahead here in 4th and 5th, and they're having a little bit of a battle. You can see the driver in 4th place. He actually had the kart that I had in the first heat. You can see how wayward it is, and it just wasn't a fun kart to drive at all, but you can see how wayward he is here, and he's gone really wide. I get pushed out, carnage going on, I'm getting bumped through the Mickey Mouse and losing a bit of time again, shaking my head, not too happy with that, but we're just trying to get our head back in the game and stay focused. You can see me looking over my shoulder there just to make sure I was maintaining the gap that I'd sort of made to the drivers behind. So here we are then, coming through into the double hairpin here, but unfortunately there was yellow flags once again, so we had to just slow off the pace a little bit just to make sure everyone was safe, and the lights go out green immediately once again, so clearly not a big accident. You can see the driver in 4th place once again, just getting all over the place going through the last right-hander there, and it's really compromising his times coming through the corners again, through the first corner, going all over the place, and this actually throws the driver in 5th offline, and this allows me to just sneak up the inside going into the first section of the Mickey Mouse. A really unorthodox place to make a move once again, but one that I made stick really well. Now here I had a really good run coming up the ramp, but the driver ahead just sort of moves across and just squeezed me into the wall, almost a spin out there, but luckily I was able to break out of it enough where we didn't actually end up taking out the driver up ahead. So again, I knew I had more pace here, especially as the driver was in a pretty slow kart, so I was looking for a move down the inside here, but decided against it. Didn't want to cause an accident, and again we're just trying to tag along behind as much as we can, pretty much pushing him down the start finish straight here. You can see our lap times aren't the best so far, 39.948, so really not anywhere near our fastest lap so far, so we're just trying to get as good lap times as we can, just trying to make some space for ourselves, just trying to hold off here, as I knew the driver was going to get a bit wayward, but unfortunately I did tap the back of him. You can see me shaking my head to myself, a bit of a poor move there as I lost all the momentum going up the ramp, so I understood now at this point that I was another lap sort of wasted, stuck behind him. So here you can see once again I looked for the move down the inside into the first hairpin, but decided against it, didn't want to cause a bit more issues. Again, he goes quite defensive into the first corner, and I thought if I go wider I get more traction, much like I did earlier in the race, but unfortunately I took a bit too much of a wide line and the driver covers it off well. So we're still in 5th place here, looking for 4th, and you can see how wayward he is on the back end of the car. It's all over the place, and it's really not how the kart should be settled in this corner. And here the driver just hits the brakes a little bit too hard and spins round right ahead of me, so I've sort of been gifted that position there up into 4th place, and now I knew that I just had to get my head down, get some good laps in and try and catch up to the guys on the podium. So you can see there is the gap. They were sort of coming around this corner as I was coming into shot. You can see they're on the right hand side of the screen there, so I had quite a lot of time to make up, but I knew that I would be able to just get my head down and put in some pretty quick laps. I'd be able to catch up to them. So we come across the line on this lap, 40.269, and this is where I believe the lap times just started to come tumbling down with a bit of clean air, not really under much pressure, and this allowed me to just try and put in some really good laps. So here we come then, tight as we can into the bottom right hand. You can see me there double taking over my shoulder, as I didn't realise Jason was right up my chuff at this point. He really closed up to me, and I was quite surprised at this, especially as he let us past on the first corner. So I was quite surprised at how much pace he was actually carrying on this session. So I was just amazed. That's why I double took over my shoulder. I thought it was going to be Sam behind me, but I think Sam was sort of taken out earlier in the race, so he still had some positions to make up at this point. So coming around here, the lights have gone green again after the yellow flags, and we're just trying to be as tidy as we can just to ensure that Jason doesn't try and get us into any of the corners. So again, taking a nice wide line there, trying to maintain my momentum coming out the corner, but you can see still struggling with the wheel on the exit and just not quite getting the grip that I wanted to, and unfortunately that led to me losing a bit of time coming up the ramp. Here you can see using my typical racing style of braking and turning at the same time into that first hairpin just to get enough momentum going into the second one. Not a lot of people use it, they usually brake before the corner, but I find that braking mid-corner sort of helps me a lot more. And you can see straight away our last lap down into the 38s once again. We're getting loaded through the corner though at this point, so I knew Jason had a lot of pace on him, and I didn't really want to hold him up too much, but at the same time I also didn't want to give up my position, as I knew we were all racing for position at this point. It wasn't just bottom of the barrel positions up for grabs. So I was just trying to work with him now at this point and try and catch up to the guy in third place. So I can't quite see who it is yet, but just trying to maintain my grip and just racing angles as much as I can just to get as good a lap time as I possibly can. So again, almost sliding through the last corner, trying to get the nose pointed in a straight direction so I can get the power down early, and we come across the line on that lap with a 38.954. So again, we're just trying to get on the power early. That's one thing I've been trying to practice as much as I can, because I find I sort of hold down the brake pedal a little bit too long and I don't really hit the accelerator as much as I can. So unfortunately, this usually means that I lose a little bit of momentum. So something I've been working on, and it has actually helped quite a lot. So again, you can see sort of breaking into the corner and trying to keep my foot on the power as quickly as possible, almost as we're turning still, to try and get the back rotated, ready to rotate it into the right hand hairpin once again. So here you can see going a little bit slidey there into the last corner, shaking my head a little bit, and we come across the line on that lap a little bit slower, 38.977, so second lap, sorry, getting all over the place, my words there. But you can see how much time we're closing up on the driver in third, who I believe was James Wiltshire. So I was just trying to be as quick as I can now, really closing the gap and sort of gaining on the drivers up ahead that I didn't think I'd be seeing for the rest of the race. Obviously, starting down in 18th place, I never thought I would be up in 4th at this point, especially as I know what my luck's like at the moment with the couple of SRK events. So this is a really good confidence boost going into the next karting event that we're going to do at Rye House in a couple of weeks. So we come across the line once again, a 38.704. I think that's our quickest lap so far, and we're just trying to really close up to James up ahead. I can see that he was going a little bit slower than me, so I just wanted to try and reel him in as much as I can. So you can see here, you can see he's under pressure, he's looking over his shoulder already, and we're still quite a distance behind him, but you'll see how quickly we're able to sort of minimise that gap just from taking some more conventional lines, some better lines that obviously I know compared to him, as he's a local over at Cardiff. And this means that I'm able to really tag along on the back of him here as he goes really wide into the big right-hander, and by just going tighter I'm able to minimise the track length by an awful lot. And again, through the first couple of corners here, just trying to take a bit of a different line, a tighter line to the corner, rather than running out wide and trying to hold the throttle all the way down. Instead, decide to lift off, brake a little bit into the first corner just so I can stay as planted as I can through that first corner. You can see now we're right on the back of James here, and you can tell he's under a bit of pressure, just going a little bit wide there. I look for a move down the inside, but decide against it as he was already turning in, and you can see there once again I try and go round the out for a little bit of a switchback, but Jason capitalises on me going in a little bit too wide, and he actually makes the move stick on me there. So we've lost a position down into 5th place. I decided against trying to carry it around the outside, but carrying it around the outside on the big right-hander is never a good idea. So here I just wanted to try and get the position back if I could, just try and maintain on the back of Jason. Obviously he's a bit heavier, so he's able to really keep his foot planted through the Mickey Mouse section, but coming out of the corner, really getting a good momentum coming up the ramp. And I knew that Jason wasn't one to hang about sitting behind someone, so I knew he was going to go for a move at some point. Now here he goes right down the inside of James there. I stick to the outside, go for a nice little switch back here, and he does actually point me through, which I was really happy with. I didn't really have to fight him too much for that one, so just sticking nice and tight and trying to maintain the gap ahead of him and try and catch back up to Jason if I can. Obviously he's pulled a bit of a gap on us there, a couple of karts distance, so we just want to try and get a head down now at this point and catch back up and maybe even go for an overtake later in the race. You can see the driver up ahead is actually in 2nd place, so we've managed to catch up to the top podium positions now at this point. I think in 1st place at this point was Chris Ball. He's sort of raced away. Here you can see him on the left hand corner there just going down the ramp, so he sort of had a scot-free race at this point, and I wanted to try and catch him if I could. Maybe if we weren't starting in last place we would have had a nice battle with him, but unfortunately as we were so far back that was just never going to be the case, especially as he was sort of mid-pack. He was able to sift through quite quickly and sort of race away. So we come across the line now, our fastest lap so far, 38.519 second lap. We've really closed up to Jason now at this point through the Mickey Mouse, but he gets a better exit, which means the time I sort of gained going into the corner I've sort of lost once again coming out. So here I look over my shoulder, you can see a little bit upset. I see Sam Gaskell behind me, and I knew that at this point he's obviously a bit faster than me on the track, so I didn't want to be held up behind third place now at this point for too long, because I know that Sam would have taken any opportunity to get past me, especially as we were essentially racing for the win at this point. So I was up in one position ahead of him, much like he was one position ahead of me in the first heat. So I wanted to try and put down as quick lap times as I can, try and get past the driver in third place now, I believe it's Kai Pugh. So I wanted to try and get past him as quickly as I could, just to try and sort of use him as a blockade to Sam behind me. You can see he goes a little bit squirrely there on the exit of the corner. This allows me to have a good run going up the ramp, and then able to just sift down the inside coming into the fast right-hander. So now we're up into third place, onto the podium once again. Really happy with this, obviously finishing it in second in the first race, and second, getting way too ahead of myself, finishing second in the first race, and now we're up into third in the second race, which obviously has given us solid points going into the end of the event, which is coming up in a few laps. So here we come round the Mickey Mouse section once again, really trying to close up to Jason now at this point. Obviously he has maintained a little bit of a gap and he's sort of racing away, but I didn't really want to let him sort of push off into the distance, so I just wanted to try and put the best lap times in that I possibly could, and really just take some cleaner lines and just make no mistakes. Obviously, as I said, Sam was up behind me, so you can see me sitting a little bit more to the middle of the track rather than sitting on the optimal racing line, just because I knew, as I mentioned earlier, Sam is going to take any opportunity to try and get past me. So once again, nice and tight to the right-hander here, and coming across the line on this lap with a 38.250 second lap, which actually was our fastest lap of the event. So I was really happy with that pace. Low 38s, wasn't quite in the 37s on this night, but we were in some really intense racing, so I was quite happy with this lap time. And now we're coming up to sort of the last couple of laps here, just really racing up behind Jason here, trying to close up on him as much as I can. Obviously, as I mentioned, still maintaining the middle of the track, just to make sure that Sam doesn't try and get down the inside in any of the corners. But as you notice as well, I'm not really checking over my shoulders, as I was so focused on trying to catch up with Jason that I wasn't really worried about Sam behind me. I knew that if we could catch up to Jason together, then we'd both be able to sort of get past and make the move done. So you can see once again through the Mickey Mouse, really gaining a lot of time. Sam giving me a little push through there, and that actually allows me to gain a little bit of time on Jason through the Mickey Mouse section. He goes a little bit wayward there into the bottom hairpin, and that allowed me to get a way better run coming up the ramp once more. So again, we're just trying to tag along behind him. I believe at this point we're coming into the last lap of the race, so I was really trying to stick on his bumper now and try and make any last ditch moves. Obviously there's a driver up ahead, maybe we'll slow him down, but as we come into the last corner here, unfortunately we didn't quite have enough to get past him, so we actually come across the line here, and that was in fact the last lap. There was no checkered flag, so I was a bit confused, so we do carry on racing, but this was in fact the end of the race. So we finished in second place for the first heat and third place for the second heat, which actually put me tied on points with Sam in first and second. However, as I had a faster lap than him in the second heat, this meant that I actually won the overall event, which I was extremely happy with, and I hope for many more in the future. However, this does in fact bring us to the end of the video, so if you have enjoyed, could you please leave a like down below and subscribe if you are new to the channel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.